Morning all, it's Adam here from AlphaBiz. Welcome to today's session on Unlock the Power of MYOB Acumatica. I'll go into it a little bit more in detail, but today's session is mainly about how to build and manage your effective dashboards in MYOB Acumatica. Which for some of our clients, this is an area that they're consistently seeing as a question now that they've had the system in place is how do we get more out of our dashboards. Look, I'll just hold for a second because we're just waiting for a few more people to join. But this session is going to be recorded today and will be posted on our social media stuff, social media, and also our website. We'll get started and kick off in a moment or so. All right. I do think we've got a fairly large number on the call. The session will be recorded today. You do have the ability to come off mute and ask questions throughout the session. We do put these sessions on to try and make them as interactive as possible. So if you do feel confident enough to come off mute and ask a question, by all means, please do. Hopefully it's interactive and gives you a bit of information. If you are new to these sessions, we host them the third week of every month on a Thursday at 10 o'clock. And it is all about how do we get more functions, how do we get more out of that core platform for MYOB Acumatica. And if you want to go back and look at any of the past webinars that we have hosted, we've been hosting these for just over a year now. I think this is actually our 13th session that we've hosted. If you do want to go back and look at any of the webinars, or if you want to register any other employees in your business to be able to come to these sessions, you can go to our website and you will find the past webinars that we've hosted, and you'll be able to register through there as well. We do try and update our marketing list on a regular basis as well to make sure that we're getting that coverage across all of our clients. Sometimes for these sessions as well, so just to give you, so not only is it about unlocking the core of MYOB Acumatica itself, or sometimes we also do see some value in these sessions to bring in some independent software vendors like Trailed, and then in fact last month we did one with Wicker Online, and that's an e-commerce platform. We try and broaden not only just what's contained in MYOB Acumatica, but also extend that out to independent software vendors, or known as ISVs as well. Today you've got myself who'll be hosting the session, and then you've got Mark DeCastro, who's one of our more senior people in the support team, and has really started developing his skills around how to get more out of the MYOB Acumatica system by creating GIs, pivot tables, and also dashboards. He's now broadened his skills quite a lot in that space and been helping clients with, obviously giving them, some advice on what they can do, but also he has been building for some of our clients some very interactive dashboards and general inquiry screens. In actual fact, a couple of months ago, we did host a session just dedicated to general inquiry screens and pivot tables. And those general inquiry screens and pivot tables are going to also be quite fundamental in building out the dashboards as well. And Mark will go into a little bit more detail later today as well. We're just going to throw up a poll just to get a bit of a feeling around the room or around the webinar of how you're going with MYOB Acumatica when it comes to the dashboards and so on. So the first one we're going to ask is, how often do you currently use dashboards in MYOB Acumatica? Is it on a daily, weekly, monthly, or rarely? Just chuck your answer in the poll. I hope everyone can see that. And the next question is, how confident do you feel about setting up and customizing dashboards on your own? Very confident, somewhat confident, not confident, unsure. And the next question is, What do you see as the biggest value in dashboard? Is it real-time visibility, the ability to make faster decisions, reducing manual reporting, team alignment and communication? So I'll give everyone a chance to answer those questions. If anyone can yell out if they're not seeing these questions, but I'm sure you probably are. And the fourth question we've got is, how do you feel about the current reporting process in MYOB Acumatica? Love it, and it's very efficient. It's okay, but it could be better. Frustrated and there's too much manual effort. Overwhelmed and don't know where to start is our last question. Okay. All right. Move along and we'll go back where we can have it. We'll be looking at these poll as we go through, and it can obviously answer any questions or queries that come up. So what's today's objective is about how users retrieve, filter, and present the data effectively in dashboards. So Mark's going to go through and do a live demonstration on how to do how to choose the data that you're going to look at, and how to then maybe choose, well, how you're going to filter that data so that if you're looking at sales orders, maybe it's not all sales orders, maybe it's the top 10 sales orders for for this week or this day, and then how to present that information effectively on a dashboard as well. What widget's going to work best for those different scenarios. But obviously having these dashboards set up effectively for your business gives you that ability to set KPIs, have measurements, really delve deep into the data of how your business is tracking, whether it be on sales, if it's on purchase orders, if it's on receivables, all that sort of stuff. So that's really, really important. And I guess we did a session a couple of months ago as well with MYOB, where they presented about artificial intelligence that's coming. So that's obviously going to enhance how you can set up dashboards and so on as well. So it's about making sure that the data and some of the tools you've got at the moment are getting better in the system. And then when that AI does come in, it's going to help you just be able to pivot a lot easier through the system and add more stuff to your dashboards as well. So I'm going to hand over to Mark. So I'm going to just keep on sharing my screen for a little bit, and then once he's ready, we'll dive into the actual into a live demo. All right, Mark.
Thanks, Adam. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining our webinar today about dashboards. So as Adam mentioned, we will talk about dashboards and how we can pull information into our dashboards. So we'll talk about what is the basis of those information, what is the baseline really, and then I just want you to consider three things when creating dashboards. So the first one would be, what are you trying to accomplish? Then the second one would be, who's going to be seeing your dashboards and how do you want your dashboard to look like? So I'm going to talk about a bit later about how to create dashboards from scratch. Maybe we can track those invoices on a monthly basis, let's say from this year, starting from July up to September. We can see all those invoices into our dashboard. So in the screen, you'll see a sample dashboard, which is called Sales Manager. So in this dashboard, on the top right corner, you'll see three buttons, which is Refresh All, Design, and Tools. So those are the tools or properties that we need to design our dashboard. Well, I'm gonna talk a bit more about it later. But yeah, so as you can see there, we have a few tiles in there that are, open opportunities, opportunity pipeline. We've got total opportunities, year-to-date sales. So all those stuff we can pull that into dashboard, and you can literally click um, into that information, and the system will drive you to what's the composition of our year-to-date sales. We have we can actually represent that in different widgets. Could be, sorry, am I clear, Adam? You hear me
Yeah, you
okay?
are. Yeah, I can hear.
No, camera is turning off. Anyway, yeah. So as I said, we can represent information in different widgets. You can put charts in there. You can put data tables. You can represent that into bar graph or a donut or something else. But to start creating a dashboards, you need a baseline, which is our generic inquiry. Adam, if you move on to the next slide. So
Yep.
this is a sample um, generic inquiry, which is called invoices and memos. So everyone must be aware of this generic inquiry. So it just gives you the list of your invoices, or could be credit memos or um, debit memos. It just depends on the type of the invoice. Um, so in here, you will see different filters at the top. You'll see all records. You have closed invoices. There is open invoices and less than 10K. So those information there at the top are called filters, wherein if you filter your invoices to only show open invoices, you can do that. And then you can pull that open invoices into your dashboards. So you will only see that open invoices instead of all records. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a bit more about it in the live demo. Adam, can you go to the next slide, please? And then we have something called widget into our dashboards. So widgets represent information. It's typically just how you represent your data into your dashboard. So we have a few different widgets here. We have charts, we have data table, we have embedded page, header, KPIs, links, so on and so forth. So the chart means that you can add a chart into the dashboard. So it means that if you have a generic inquiry for invoices and memos, you can bring that into your dashboard via chart. It could be a donut, as you've seen on the sample here in the dashboard. I've got a donut there, just right in the production orders by status section. And then we also have a data table, which represents your widget. So data table, as an example, is the one below, which is called bank reconciliation schedule. We also have AR open contracts. You have open projects, recurring transactions. Those are data tables. Okay, so those information just represents that it's in a data table, but you can define that in a different widgets. And then we have an embedded page where you can add maybe, I don't know, maybe a news or something like that in the top right corner, maybe a production site. As long as you have the URL, for example, you want to see what is the current news in Australia today, you can put that link there, and then in the dashboard, it will play automatically for you. It will be embedded
Yeah.
in there.
And I guess this was one that we sort of built for, one of our clients. So it's, they wanted to be able to see, the construction site that they were building. So we, put that embedded page so that, instead of, people that were working in the office side of things could see, basically have a quick snapshot of where the production was or the construction job was.
Yep. And then we also have a header. So header just, as the name implies, just gives you the header into our dashboard. Say you want to see, okay, this is for opportunities. You want a header for sales orders and cohorts and something like that. We have key performance indicators, which is the tiles that you see right in the middle of the screen. So you can change the color depending on the level of your, depending on the level that you set into your configuration from the dashboards. We have a link. So link in the widgets means you can add a link into the dashboard. For example, you want to add a link for customer screen, or maybe something like opportunities, or if you're in production, maybe production order, you can put that into the system and then click right into it. Then the system will route you directly to that screen. We also have a widget called pivot table. There's actually no pivot table in the sample there, but pivot table it works just the same with how the Excel works, how it works in Excel. So you can also create pivot tables into the system and then populate that into the dashboard. Okay, and then we have a wiki page. You know, if you have a new employee and you want them to, I don't know, maybe have a read of, just depend on their role. If they're on the sales, they can read about sales orders. So what it does is just give you information about how to create sales order, what are the description of each fields into that sales order screen. Okay, do you have another slide, Adam, to show? Oh, I think that's the last
That's
one.
a
Yep.
live demo. Just before I go on to that, I just thought I'd share the results of the poll. So just on the first question on the poll that we had, so that you've got this for your knowledge as well, Mark. So 29% of people currently use dashboards on a daily basis. But it's obviously there's a fair few people on the call that rarely use them and haven't really explored them. Our second question was how confident do you feel about setting up customization dashboards? Only 11% of people were very confident, and then obviously the unsure, 43% were unsure and don't know how to customize them. And that's where you guys can pull on our help to obviously if you don't have the time to do it, you can give us the requirements that you need for the dashboard, and our team can build those dashboards out for you. Or if you start building it and you just have just a quick question and just need a little bit of help just to guide you, obviously the support team will be able to help that. But obviously if you want us to build it, then it's going to take a little bit of time and need that our time to build those out for you. What do you see as the biggest value? Obviously real-time visibility, and then reducing manual reporting was the second highest there. And that's the key, right? I know a lot of our clients do have to take out things to Excel spreadsheets and try and manipulate it in different GI screens into Excel, and that can be very painful. This is where we can, if we use the right the right mechanism to build those reports for you, we can build it all into MYOB Acumatica, reducing you having to export data out, especially if it's just going to be visual needs. But I think in our previous one around GIs and creating pivot tables, you can blend two GIs together and create a pivot table to drag information to give you those results that you need. Obviously here, how do you feel about the current reporting process in MYOB Acumatica? 36% said it's okay, but it could be better. And the other one was frustrated and there's too much manual effort. So this is where we're trying to bring this to you guys so that you understand how you can actually do it. I guess a lot of clients that have set MYOB Acumatica up over the past is that, obviously when we're going live and getting you to that controlled cutover stage, sometimes a lot of that operational reports that you need to help give yourself better decision making in the business, hasn't been explored or built out yet. And that's where we can come into that and really help you with exploring those options and building out, those operationals. Obviously, all the financial and all the all the general inquiry screens and all those other reports that were essential to get live on day one are there. But it's a lot of the time we find clients haven't got the time, or it's a big project implementing an ERP solution and they haven't got to that point of the operational stuff. And that's where I think a lot of our clients, and especially ones that I know are on this call today, really do need to start delving into the operational reporting. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand over to Mark, and he's going to give us a live demonstration.
Thanks, Adam. Sorry guys, for some reason my camera is turning off automatically. Just gonna share my.
They only came here to see you, Mark. That's all right. Just
Well,
keep the show goes on.
They know how I look, so that's fine. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Yep. All right, so we've got so as you can see, I've landed into customer's dashboard screen. And that's because that is my home page. So it means that if that's my home page, that's where I want to land every time I log in, or every time I click on the logo here in the top left corner. And then you can define that by going into your profile. But it depends on your role. It could be, I don't know, maybe if you're always doing an AP bill, maybe you're always doing a service order or a sales order, you can define that into your homepage here. Okay, but for this one, I'll just set that to be customer's dashboard, but you can obviously change that to a specific screen that you always do. So you can filter workspaces to say dashboards, or category to say inquiries or dashboards. So I'm gonna show you when you click on the top left. Since my homepage is this dashboard, I will be routed to here automatically. Okay, you can see a different tiles here. This one called financial summary, that's a header. This one here at the top is called parameter, where if you filter out, say, BHP, you'll be able to see all those details and it will refresh automatically. So there's a setup that's needed into the dashboard later on, which I will show to you. So we have different tiles here, which shows AR balance. We have 8.52, and you can literally just click in there, and the system will bring you to that generic inquiry. Okay, so it's going to give you a drill down on what's the composition of that 8,052. You also have your header here as sales summary, so that's the same as the tiles, and this is called scorecard. We have performance summary. We have a donut here, which is represented in graph. This one is a bar or a column. And if you want to see your top item sold, you're just gonna need to pull up that generic inquiry. And then we have a pivot table here, which I've discussed earlier. Later on, I will show you how to create a simple pivot table, and then how can we pull that up into our dashboards. Okay, so let's kick off creating a dashboard from scratch. Oh, actually, one more thing. If you go to your workspaces here in the left-hand corner, you have your more items. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see dashboards workspace under other section. If you click into dashboards, you'll be able to see all the default or built-in dashboards in the system. So if you purchase MYOB Acumatica, you will have a default or built-in dashboards. So we have a few dashboards in the finance. We have a few in the distribution, field service, construction, so on and so forth. And you can click into each one of them if you want to have some testing. For example, I want to go to my sales manager dashboard. And this is my sales manager dashboard. And this is built in into the system in my tenant. I can go ahead and click design and edit that. Depends on my preference. If I want to, represent that into graph or maybe a scorecard and different KPIs, I can do that by clicking on the edit here. So I'm going to show you how to create one from scratch. To do that, just go to more items and then you have dashboards. Actually, you can search it here and say dashboards. So that's one way to create a dashboard. Another thing is if you click design and then click on properties, you will be routed to the same screen, which represents our sales manager dashboard. And then you can configure who is it going to be visible to. For example, Adam has a role of AP admin. We can grant him access into that. Just double click in here and click granted. So that's one of the security into the dashboard. So let's create one from scratch, and I'm gonna name it as demo webinar 2025. Uh, just one tip though, depends on the version you're in, but I think most of you um, have the latest version. There are some features available into the dashboard. I think back in 2020, there wasn't any copy widget function, and so it has been implemented since then, and it's really helpful by just copying those widgets when you create another widget. So we set the name as Demo Webinar 2025, and then the owner role is the one who can edit your dashboard. So in this case, I'll say administrator because I'm an administrator. There's a box called Allow Users to Personalize, and if this is selected or ticked, it means that you allow the users who has access to this dashboard to be able to personalize their own dashboard. For example, they want to create a new one for them, they want to modify this dashboard, they can do that. But the good thing in MYOB Acumatica is that it doesn't change the settings or properties into your original dashboard, which is really, really good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. And then we have a checkbox here, which is exposed to mobile application. So that's one of the good features as well, where you can expose this dashboard to mobile application. Sitemap title, we have workspace and then category field. So what this means is, I'm just gonna set my access to granted. So I'm gonna hit save, and I have my dashboard. If I search for it, I'm not gonna be able to see it. And that's because we haven't published that to the UI. So let's go ahead and do that. Click on the publish to the UI. And then from here, you will need to define your sitemap title. So we're just gonna leave that as it is. And then the workspaces is where you want this dashboard to appear to in these workspaces. So if you're a sales manager or a production manager, you can put that into production workspaces, or maybe you are in the finance team, then you can put that here as well. For this example, I will put this into my data views workspace, and then categories is the categories that you see here. So this bold section here, which is transactions, inquiries, reports, and dashboards. So you're gonna need to identify which category you want that dashboard to fall in. So for this instance, I'm gonna put it into my dashboards category. And then the system will automatically provide you a screen ID, which is a custom one. So for the access rights or permission, um, so the access rights depends on the role, obviously. But we can copy. So what this means is it just copy the access rights from the screen. So we're gonna publish this. And then you'll see that this one here has been auto-populated. So that's it. Our dashboard is created. We made it visible to users who has administrator role. We allow them to personalize it on their own without having to change some of the configurations in the original dashboards. We can set our parameters here. Like I said, if you want to have a lookup for a specific customer, you can do that. And then in the widgets section, here's where you can see all the widgets that you added into the dashboard. So let's go ahead and view this dashboard that we created. Just need to click view. And here's our dashboard. So at the moment it looks ugly because there's no information here yet. So here in the top right, we have design. Once you click that, this is where you start designing your dashboard. So like I mentioned before, the baseline of our dashboard is the generic inquiry. If you don't have a generic inquiry, you cannot pull it up into your dashboard. So you have to have one. So generic inquiries are something like this. If you go to receivables, you have invoices and memos, you have payments and applications. In the payable side, you have bills and adjustments, checks and payments, sales orders. So those are called generic inquiries if it lists your transactions. And we can pull it up into our dashboard. So let's pull it up and invoices and memos, for example. And I'm going to go through each one of these widget. So again, I'm going to start from the beginning. So I'll hit design. As I mentioned, there is a default dashboard if you want to, keep up with me and create a new one for yourself as well. Or you can just focus on me and then um, let's go through all these widgets here. Okay, so we hit design, and then you can see here we have our add a new widget button where you can click and then add different widgets. One thing before you design your widget is you also have this layout button here. So this means that it determines how you want your dashboard to look like. Do you want it to be equal on each side? You have to click this second one here. If you wanted a bit narrower to the right-hand corner, then select this one, and then opposite one would be this one. So for my example, I'm going to show you the equal side. So once you chose your preferred layout, just press OK, and then you'll see a couple of add new widgets button here. This base from clipboard, I'm going to show it to you later once we created a widget. So let's go ahead and add one. We have a chart. Then if we hit next, these are the fields that you need to fill out in order to create one. Okay, as I mentioned, we will focus on invoices and memos, generic inquiry. So just go ahead and type that invoices and memos. Now, if you notice, there are two invoices and memos. So I don't know if you're a newbie in creating a dashboard, you might get confused. So this screen ID here identifies which is the correct one. You can actually click on that field and press Control C into your keyboard, and then it will be copied automatically, and then paste that, and then you can remove the dots there. Then you'll see different options here. Well, we all know that it is in the receivable side, so we just click in here. So if I open that into the new tab, you'll see the screen ID at the top, which says screen ID equals AR3010PL. Every time you see a PL, that's called generic inquiry, or a list of your invoices. So if we go back to our dashboards, we know that this is the one, so we're gonna select that. And then here you have a shared filter to apply field. So what it means is if you have a shared filter from your generic inquiry, such as these ones, we have closed invoices, open invoices, less than 10K, so on and so forth. We can pull that into our dashboards and just see those open ones, for example, or closed invoices that have been paid. For this example, I'm just gonna leave that as all record, and then you can also filter the setting here. So this filter settings means that you can modify the filter that you created for that, but we're not gonna do that because I would recommend just, creating filters from the generic inquiry instead of from here. But yeah, there's a feature to add one from here. And then refresh data means that um, how you want your data to refresh. For example, like how often. Could be every 30 minutes, every hour, or 4 hours, or every day. For my example, I'm just gonna say every 30 minutes, the data keeps reloading itself automatically. You have a caption field here. If you want to name that to be like, say, invoices and memos, so that's going to be the caption that will show here. Okay, let's configure that. And then let's create a donut. Obviously, there are different types here. You can put a column, bar, or depends on your preference, or a funnel. I'm going to show you what donut looks like. We have a legend. Let's say customer name, and then we can sort it by legend values, and we'll make it descending. So this field right here says that if you want to only show maybe, I don't know, top 10. It's not working. uh, uh, Maybe top 20 customers. I'll leave that as top 5, and then we'll set the value to be amount. So what this means is we're creating a donut which will show the customer names and the amounts. And then yes, we're summing it, and then we can put some formats. So these are the available formats in the system. We're gonna pick this and then press OK. And then we'll hit finish, and then you'll see a donut here. If you're still in the design mode, you can drag that across to the right. Um, so your hand needs to be really good at this. Just bear with me. Let's go out and then go back. You can drag that like this, or maybe to the right. Now, since our layout would be equal to each side of the fence, if you scroll this one to the right, it's not gonna do that because your layout is equal to each side. Okay, so let's go out of our design mode, and then you'll be able to see your invoices and memos. Actually, let's name it as top 5 customers. That's your caption right there. Okay, go out of design, you'll see there. And you can click on the legend to see the values from that donut. You can also click into each one of them. For example, I want to see only MIS Industrial. That's gonna give me all information for MIS Industrial only. It's the drill down for that figures in there. Okay, let's add another one. And then I will give you an example of the same generic inquiry, which is invoices and memos. And then I'll leave the refresh data to be every 1 hour. And then I want to represent this information into a bar. And then in here, we can define a customer or a customer name. And then I want to see only 5 of them. And then we're going to define our value to be the amount, and we're summing it. So our format would be the same. Now hit OK. Let's leave the caption blank for this one. And then let's hit, actually, I actually want to see my monthly sales for that generic inquiry. So I'm going to select my legend as post period. I want it to be ascending, and then OK, and then finish. And then from here, you can see all those information or all those figures for each period. And obviously, you can drag that again. Let's make it this one here. There you go. So you can drag that to the left or to the right, depending on the size you want it to be. Let's put it back to this one. So these are my invoices and memos for each period. So in 05/2019, I have 1,156,000. Let's add a new widget, which is called data table. Then we're going to pull up the same generic inquiry. I'll select that. And then I will say on page reload, it's going to refresh automatically. Let's filter this column settings. So column settings, there are 2 sections. We have available columns and we have selected columns. So these columns that you see on the right will be the columns that will show into your dashboards. And these columns are available because that is available in from your generic inquiry. You'll see the type, reference number, status, date, so on and so forth. You'll be able to see that from the columns here. So if I want to take out my customer order number, because I don't need that. I don't really need this guy here. I don't care about the currency, reference number, retention. Let's double up. So let's remove that. And then we'll only be seeing these columns here. So if we press OK and say top, so column settings, invoices and memos, we'll hit finish. That's going to give you this data table. So that's how it looks if you select data tables. If you're in the design mode, you can edit the columns so they are readable. And then there you go. You have your data table. You can click into each one of them, and then you will be routed to the specific screen and gives you the composition of the figures right there. So we have our invoice, reference number, customer name, and then some other details into here. If you notice, there's no projects in here. If you want to add the project that are linked to your invoices, you're going to need to add that into your generic inquiry. In my generic inquiry, it's not actually here. If I look up to my column configurator and I search for project, it's not showing here. It's not even in our selected column. So it means that you have to edit the generic inquiry from the customization here and then edit generic inquiry. But we have a separate session there for generic inquiry if you want to add the project. So this is actually the project that's linked to this invoice. And then you can add that by going into your customization and inspect element and see what is the field and tables in there. So we can talk more about it in a different session, but essentially what I want you to know is you can add projects here as well, as long as it's available into your generic inquiries. So generic inquiry is something like this. You configure it here. You have your data sources tab, which lists all your tables. Relations tab shows your relationship with those tables. If you have different tables in your transactions, and you have to link them to be able to pull it up from a generic inquiry. So results grids is essentially all the columns available into your generic inquiry. If you cannot add them here, it means you have to set the correct table relationship. Okay, it's a bit technical, but we had a session back then with Janelle. If you want to go to our social media accounts. So going back to our webinar, our dashboard webinar, we can hit the sign, add a new widget. This time I want to add a header, and I'll say I need to add another KPI, and I'll just hit next, and I'll say key performance indicator. So that's just a header. If you go out of design mode, it's just a header that tells you these are your KPIs. If you hit design, you can add a new widget, and then we're going to add a scorecard here. So scorecard means it's the tiles that you see earlier from the screenshots. So I'll show you how it looks. First, you're gonna need to select your generic inquiry, which is invoices and memos. This one here. We're gonna leave that all records filter. And then I wanted to reload on page reloads. Field to aggregate is the amount. And then we're gonna sum them. Okay. We have the normal level here. So normal level and alarm level. So two things. If you set your normal level to be, say, I don't know, 50 million, that's going to be your normal level. And you can define the color for that level that you set there. So in my case, it's green. So anything above 50 million, your tile will show green. And then in the alarm level, anything that you do, anything that is below 30 million, it will show red. And then warning color means anything in between 30 to 50 million will show yellow, or depends if you want to say blue or pink, I don't know. So hit finish, and then you'll see that it's been colored to green. Why? It's because your total invoices and memos is above your normal level, which is 50 million. So I'm gonna go back to my design and edit that to be, say, anything below. So let's set this to be anything below 50 million. And then this one here is 60 million. Oh, that's a huge figures there. Let's, oh, actually you can put an icon if you say currency or money. And then the caption will be total invoices and memos. Then you'll hit finish. So remember, our alarm level is 50 million. which means anything below 50 million will show red. Okay. If you hit finish, well, you shows yellow because it shows yellow because it's in between 50 to 60 million. Let's set this to be anything under 50 million will actually anything under 55 million will turn red. So it turns red because that's below 50 million. Okay. So that's one of the widget that you can add here as well. And if you click into it, it will give you the drill down. Okay. If we go back to our design mode, we can add a new widget and pull up a pivot table. Sorry guys, I know it's already 10:50, but I hope you can extend a few more minutes just for me to show you different options here and capabilities. We'll show invoices. Oh, I forgot what's the widget that we selected. Pivot table, right. So we don't have any pivot table yet, so I'm just going to create one. Actually, I have created one. You can see here from the gear icon. We have our rows to be customer names. That's going to show in your rows. Column would be date, and then the amount for the values. This is how it looks like. It looks like from the generic inquiry, and you can pull it up from here. I want to add that down below here. Let's say pivot table, and then invoices and memos generic inquiry. And then you need to define your pivot table, which is this one. Okay, so my pivot table says that those are the invoices from January period to December this year. And I'll hit finish, and this is how it looks like from the dashboard. You can drag that across to the right, and then you'll be able to see those figures there. You can drill down into it by clicking on the hyperlink, or from this one here. If you click from here, you'll be able to see only BHP. Okay. Let's go to the design mode and add a new widget, which is called embedded page. If we hit next, I don't know what link, maybe news.com.au, something like that. We put it here, news today, finish, or like Adam said, could be a production site or something else that you want to monitor. But if you often want to read some news or any URL, you can see that here. Make that bigger. Okay.
If you're
That's
publicly
gonna
if you're publicly listed, you could have your the ASX and linking back to all your shares.
sorry, who's that?
That
Is
was
that you,
me.
Adam?
Yeah.
Adam? Yep. So if we go back to our design mode, if I want to add a link, so link means it displays a link to a workspace item or a form. Well, that just means it's a screen. If you want to bring up a screen from your dashboard, if you're doing I don't know, if you're always creating customer, maybe you can add that link. So just hit next and then click add, select the screen, which is customers, this one here. Your parameter is customers, it's fine. And then you can define how you want it to populate. It could be in the same tab, new tab, or pop-up window. I like to be in the new tab, so my dashboard still remain. And then we gotta give it a description, add new customers, customer. And we'll hit finish. And then we go out of design mode, then that's the link. If you're into your dashboard, click on the link. you'll be routed to that screen that you define in there. So a really good way of having that at your fingertip. You just click on plus there and then create a customer from scratch. Okay. Another thing I want to show you is, well, the trend KPI just looks the same as your tile here, which is a KPI. And then the wiki page, like I said, if you want to add a wiki page or a help for new employees, you can bring them into their dashboards, so they'll be able to read what those field means. We can bring in Power BI tile as well.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I think that's most of the widget that our clients use. Data table chart.
The Power BI one would be obviously if you've got other data sources and you've got that in a Power BI format, you could bring in data essentially from that Power BI.
Yep. Just put your ID and then client secret. Okay, so that was it. If you click if you click properties, you'll be routed to your dashboard properties where you define permissions for each of the roles. Actually, one of the cool features is you can set a parameter. I'm gonna make it fast and say customers, and then I'm gonna select the account. This one here, and then I'll say my customer ID, and then display name would be customer. And then we can define a default value as well into that parameter if we have a default one. But I think most of the people likes having a lookup. So if that's the case, you just want to need to tick this one here and then save, and then view your dashboard again. So once you hit view, you'll see that there is a parameter called customer, where you can select a customer you want to keep track. For example, MIS Industrial. If I search for that supplier, MIS Industrial, you'll see nothing changes and it still show other customer here. And that's because our widget doesn't know about that that parameter. So you want to go to your design mode and you'll need to define that into each one of your widgets here. So I'm going to define it in my donut. I'll just click the pencil icon. It's not doing anything. Maybe here. Okay, let's design. For some reason, it's not. Let me open up a new one. Okay, go back to our design mode. And then here, you can define that parameter by clicking on the filter settings. Just click plus, and then customer equals, and then use parameter, which is the parameter that we just defined there at the top. So once you tick that, you're going to need to define the value, and then just press OK, and then hit finish. And then, for example, I want to see all details only for MIS customer. That's gonna automatically refresh the data here. Okay, I think that's it.
Because I've been obviously missing those chats. I wasn't seeing the chats coming through, but yeah, just I mean, I guess the session today was obviously just a quick overview of what can be done, and as you can see, quite simply, you can start building out those operational dashboards. But you know, it's more, you know, building out what your wish list is and then sort of making an evaluation of how much that means to your business and then going, okay, well, is it something that we have the skill set in house to do? Or as you can see, Mark quite quickly, you know, darted around the system quite easily. But this is where we come into that. You know, so I guess asking us questions, do you need more automation or notifications, you know, about overdue accounts or pending approvals? those sort of things. That's like looking into that operational data now and saying, okay, well, what do we need to see visually without having to go filtering through dashboard through general inquiry screens? How do we get that at our fingertips? Um, Another thing that we pointed out is, do you need deeper analytics and integration with other systems? If you've got other systems out there that are, using Power BI for their dashboards and reporting, so there might be another application that you're using, we can marry the two together inside your MYOB Acumatica. So it's not just about it could be an integration of the dashboards that we need to look at doing for you as well. So yeah, we'll open it up again. I know we're just over time, so really do appreciate everyone staying on.
Yeah. And dashboards is really helpful if you have different reports that you want to access in one space, And there's more into dashboards, which I really want to explain each field, but due to a limited time. But if you need more information, we can link up on Teams and I'll be happy to assist.
Cool. All right. Well, I think everyone's sort of saying goodbye. So look, we'll end the session here. The session will be recorded, is being recorded, and will be posted on our website and obviously in our socials. So by all means, go and share it amongst your team. Watch back over it and see what's possible and see what you can play with yourself. And then we're here obviously to take it that next step if you need to as well. So thank you very much for everyone for attending today.